Welcome, everyone. It is exactly 4. Let's give everybody 30 seconds to grab their coffee, settle in, and we can kick off this webinar. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining, and welcome to this webinar. Quite a few nationalities I see. Oh, that's really cool to see. Like I said, welcome. We are joined today by 3 absolute experts when it comes to DevOps, and they will help you kickstart your digital transformation. Can you go to the next slide, Coco? I am not Katrina. Katrina has some joint issues. I'm taking over for her. Like I said, we're joined today by Sean Post, Program Manager at Computrain, Sam Rosberger, who is a transformation consultant via Brunel, and Marcel Fouder, who is a DASA Program Manager, but also a Master Trainer. Can you go to the next slide, Coco? Little bit of housekeeping before we get started and before I hand over. Recording and slides will be made available. Do allow us a day or so that we can create the video, upload it, share it via email. You can ask questions. There's a questions panel on the right-hand side, which is labeled questions. I'll be monitoring these during the webinar, but also after the webinar. And feedback is, of course, welcome. We'll also share your feedback form towards the end. Next slide, Coco. The agenda for today, I don't want to go through all the items in too much detail, but we'll start with the different roles, culture and behavior, the value, practices, technical practices, and then the continuous delivery and automation. A little bit about DASA, and here I want to hand over to Marcel.
Yeah, actually, I understood that Katrina is also there. So if you want, Katrina, you can take it over here.
I'm so sorry,
yes,
Katrina.
I'm happy to take it over.
Okay.
Hello. Sorry, I was having issues with my computer, but I'm on my other computer, which is great. Okay, so about DASA. DASA is the world's largest DevOps and Agile association, and fostering dialogue, debate, and collaboration amongst leading industry professionals and organizations. With a network of 300 plus partner organizations, DASA helps define, inform, and advance the DevOps industry through networking, information sharing, awards, lifelong learning, and certification. It was founded in 2016 with over 300 plus partners in 48 countries, and more than 1,000 professionals are part of the community. Over to the next slide. So the DASA principles drive culture and leadership. And there are 6 principles. Number 1, customer-centric action, courage to act and innovate. 2, create with the end in mind, product and service thinking, engineering mindset, and to collaborate. Number 3, end-to-end responsibility, live your accountability, concept to grow, and performance support. And number 4, cross-functional autonomous teams, T-shaped profiles, complementary skills, basically. And then number 5, continuous improvement. If it hurts, do it more, and then experiment fast. Number 6, automate everything you can, enhance quality, maximizing flow. Over to the next slide, please.
Yeah.
So, Marcel, over to you.
That's my slide. You know, DevOps is really very hot nowadays. And more and more organizations are considering to transform to a DevOps way of working. And actually, when you look at what happens in the world right now, the way organizations work changed enormously compared to 15, 20 years back. Everything is more and more digital. Actually, we are in the middle of the fourth industrial revolution right now. Actually, the digital revolution. So everything should be developed faster, better, and should be deployed quicker at a higher quality. Customers are expecting much better solutions and with a very short period of time offering it to the market. So new applications, new software should be developed very quickly and made available to the customers. And as a company, you need to also take this direction seriously in consideration, because if you don't, then you will lose the game. Actually, many companies, they look at companies, what happened with them. Brands like Kodak. Kodak was famous in the photography world, but they were not able to make the steps to the digital photography. Toys R Us and other big retail organizations, they did not make that step on time, and they are out of business. So actually going digital is becoming more and more crucial and important to not only remain in business, but also to improve your market share, market rate, and to stay tuned with the more and more requirements, changing requirements from the business as well as from the customers. Next slide, please. That's still the same slide. Yeah. Talking about the DevOps Fundamentals course. The DevOps Fundamentals course is having a big advantage because it is giving you a very broad overview of the important aspects that what DevOps is about. When you do a search for DevOps on Google, for example, then most of the hits about DevOps is about technology and tooling. So most of the people, they think DevOps, it's all about tooling and technology. Okay, tooling and technology and automation are important aspects in DevOps, but there is much more around DevOps. And that's also the reason why many of those initiatives to transform to a high-performing organization or or a digital organization or a DevOps organization, most of those initiatives fail. Around 75% of those initiatives fail. That's a finding from Gartner and Forrester. And that's because most of these organizations, they think, yeah, we need to move towards a DevOps way of working. Most of them, they think, yeah, it's all about tooling and automation. We need to select a tool, implement the tool. Maybe we need to send some people to a training course to learn them how to use the tool, and that's it. But there is much more around DevOps. That's even more important than the tooling and the technology. That's around cultural aspects, leadership aspects, continual improvement aspects, and all the other aspects that you see on this spiderweb diagram. That are the key aspects that you need to take into account to get a complete overview what DevOps is about. And going through those concepts, courage, team building, leadership, continuous improvement, that are skill areas. And the other 8 areas, from architecture and design in the upper left-hand corner to the infrastructure engineering on the right-hand side, we call them knowledge areas. And all those 12 areas, we cover them in the fundamentals course at Bloom's level 1 and 2. So we make sure that we bring you at the required level of knowledge and comprehension / understanding of those key concepts. So you get a really broad overview what DevOps is about. Next slide, please. And when you look at the fundamentals course, the course is going through around 5 stages. DevOps context, DevOps for individuals, DevOps for teams and organizations, DevOps practices and the next steps. And in every phase, you have one or a couple of modules. And in the next couple of slides, we give you an impression what you find in each of these modules, like building the DevOps context, knowing DevOps for individuals, etc. So this is showing you the journey that you are going to experience if you are going to take this course, which I really hope, of course. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. What's the problem, guys?
On the next slide, Marcel.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I was looking for what should be in the next slide. But so this is, let's say, module number 2, officially module number 2.
Next.
Yeah, no, this is okay. So what are we going to talk about? Sorry, do you hear me? Okay. Okay, then I continue. So around the phase building the context and the module building the context, we cover the topics listed on this slide. So we are going to talk about the waterfall way of working, the agile way of working, but also what DevOps is, and also some historical facts, the evolution of DevOps. Of course, why you should take DevOps into consideration, what are the benefits of working according DevOps, and also the importance of the DevOps principles. Why do we have principles? What are those principles? That are the norms and the values that you need to take into account. If you don't take a principle serious enough, then the risk that you're not going to be successful is going to increase. And of course, an important aspect in DevOps is measuring. And if you cannot measure it, you cannot manage it. And if you cannot manage it, you cannot improve it. And actually, if you cannot improve it, you probably don't care. But okay, so next slide, please. The next module is more focused towards what does it mean for individuals, team members working in a DevOps team. DASA calls them the business system teams. What kind of skills and competences do you need to have? Talking about the T-shaped profile. What kind of profile does a team member need to have? And we use the letter T for that, where when you look at the horizontal bar of the letter T, then we talk about the broadness of knowledge of people. So, and the vertical bar is the specialist area, the specialism of the individual, the depth of expertise. So one person can be a specialist in one area, but it is important that he also is having a certain level of knowledge in other area. That's the horizontal bar. So you can imagine if you put a couple of members together in a team and all of them have a T-shaped profile, they fill on top of each other, they are complementary to each other, so you can cover all the necessary tasks and the responsibilities of that team. In that same module, we are also going to talk about the capabilities by DASA and the certifications. So more in-depth information about what DASA is, the different certification schemes that they are going to show in one of the last slides. So what is it that you can take as a next step in your journey of becoming a DevOps professional? Next slide. And culture is one of the most important aspects. I mentioned that already, that around 75% of those initiatives fail. That's because one of the reasons is that also the culture is not taken serious enough. Culture is key, a culture of fail fast, fail often, a culture of being able to share information, share knowledge with each other, a culture of helping each other to become better, continuous improvement, fail fast, fail often, do experiments. It requires another leadership style. It requires other management styles. It requires leaders that should, and managers that should perform a facilitative coaching, intent-based leadership style, more or less, that makes it possible for people to excel. So people are experienced enough, people are knowledgeable enough that you put together in a DevOps team. They should know exactly what to do and how to do that. They don't need a manager that is going to tell them what they need to do and how they should do it. No, those leaders and managers should give the freedom to the people to excel and to perform well. So culture is an important aspect that can make or break the success of the initiative. Next slide, please.
Okay, this is where I take over.
Yeah.
As Marcel mentioned, culture is very, very important. We sort of define culture as shared symbols, language, norms and values. Like Marcel said, you don't need a manager to tell you what to do. We expect you to have the experience to solve the problems that we are facing together, and most certainly also in the team. There's a different mindset going on with managers and leaders at this point of time. Luckily, it's getting traction. The question is no longer we need to cross water and now I want you to build a bridge, but the question is more, okay, we need to cross water. How do you want to do this? Do you want to build a pontoon? Do we get a canoe and 5 pedals? Do we build a stationary bridge or something? So the question and the responsibility really lies with the teams. Now, what we call core elements of DevOps culture is leadership and feedback, amongst other things, team building, continuous improvement and problem solving. So think of the 5 whys, for instance, and a Kaizen mindset. And like Marcel also already mentioned, courage and experimentation. And it's really important for leaders to understand that you can't just drop a culture plan from the 15th floor of the main headquarters. You can't say now we're doing DevOps or now we're doing Agile and good luck with it and I'll see you in 2 years when it's done. This culture growing has to grow bottom up, but also top down, and it's something that we all do together, right? It's not. You can't force culture on somebody. It's something you repeat daily. It's something you really live. Experimentation and creating a fail-safe environment also eventually leads to better employee satisfaction, which in the end, according to most studies, also leads to better customer satisfaction. Can I have the next slide, please? In our trainings, we give the examples of organization models, how the organization is structured, how information flows through organizations. And what we found in studies is that the harder or the more difficult information flows through organization, the less employee satisfaction is achieved. So being clear about your goals, your mission, your vision of a company, and translating this up to the deepest part of the organization, the teams, clarification really helps set boundaries for teams. And it's sort of the same like feeding or like raising your children, right? If you don't put certain boundaries on because of their safety, for instance, they don't learn what is safe and what is unsafe. It's the same thing with organizations. So it's a bit of a contradiction actually, because you say, okay, we give you the freedom within these boundaries, and then through autonomy, mastery, and purpose, these teams can excel. Why? Because we tell them what we expect from them so they can achieve this. And like Marcel said, it's very important that you set a standard or set a target that you want to achieve and measure this. If you look at DevOps at scale, the same thing applies. You don't want management to tell you, okay, now we're doing Agile, or now we're doing DevOps, or even at scale, we're doing less, or we're doing safe. What we really should be looking at is looking what fits the organization, the best. So certain parts of SAFe might work for certain parts of the organization. You might still be able to implement very good, very well-run project management departments if that really suits your business. So we are not here to sell you this DevOps at scale kind of certification schemes and that sort of stuff. What we're doing here with this fundamentals course is really lay a ground foundation of level field understanding, where we all talk the same language, we all have the same culture to begin with, which makes it it makes the organization be more able to achieve the success where we're facing and decrease that danger of those 70% of transformations that are not working. Can I have the next slide?
Yes, thanks, Sam. I'll take over from here. If you look at the DevOps management practices and the management practices which you see here, then I see ITIL, Lean, and Agile. And if we look at training courses and service management courses, then ITIL is the de facto standard within service management. So DevOps is not trying to reinvent service management and how should we do service management. It embraces the ITIL way of thinking in a part which fits within the DevOps way of thinking as well. The same is for Lean. Lean is a way to do process improvement within an organization. It can be in an industry or also in a digital organization. And the whole process improvement and the way you collaborate and all the fundamentals within the Lean are also incorporated within DevOps. And last but not least, Agile, the Agile way of working, design and build incremental software instead of waterfall, in which situation you just build a complete set and then at the end you present it to your customers. We don't do that anymore. We show it every 20, 30 days to our end customer and show them the result in between. Is this really what you wanted? And if you look at all these management practices, it's really important to say DevOps doesn't try to replace these management practices, but really looks into incorporating these practices and looking at the best way of working for your organization. And as Sam mentioned, it's not one size fits all. If project management at one side of your organization really fits, please continue to use that. But if you look at DevOps, you can have a continuous integration development cycle. You have management practices which fit in that cycle and get the best of both worlds. And I think that's really important if you look at DevOps. Next slide, please. And also the technical practices. Marcel stated at first, like most companies, and I see that myself too at companies I talk to as a training provider, look at the technical side of DevOps. Train my teams in Azure DevOps. How do I set up a continuous integration, continuous development pipeline? I'm going to send the whole IT staff to a course, and then afterwards we are doing DevOps. Everything will be fine. Well, it might work like that, but as Marcel stated before, not all implementations will be successful. So please do not only look at the technical practices, but it is of course important to have the technical practices. So I want to make sure that you understand that the DevOps Fundamentals course is not a technical course, but you do get an explanation of the technical practices within DevOps. They explain a lot within the course. What's the architecture? What's the infrastructure? What's the role of cloud? How do you do your operations management? But it's much more than that. It's the way your team works. It's the way you collaborate. It's the culture which is needed, bottom up or top down, as Sam stated before. And that's how this DevOps course and the following courses and the other levels really help you not only to look at the technical side, but also how do we adopt DevOps within the organization in a whole. And I think that's really the benefit of this course and the whole DASA method and way of thinking. Next slide, please. And back to you, Sam.
Thank you. Yeah, so a big part is culture, a big part is automation and tools. And through the tools, we enable this continuous delivery. There's a difference between continuous deployment and continuous delivery. Continuous delivery waits for that manual step. So as an example, I always give like a bank app that's waiting for Easter. It's not really handy to have this Easter bunny on the app at September. It's just a piece of code that you can deploy every year. So that really waits for that manual deployment decision. That should be around March somewhere, in the time of the year that's relevant. Also, with the standardization of tools, CI/CD pipelines, cloud environments, what we are trying to achieve is ultimately better customer satisfaction, a faster time to market, reduced number of defects, as minimal as possible delays between actual pressing the button and the deployment in the production environment. We focus on code quality. You might hear the term shifting left, which is really focusing the quality at the source of the development. So checking your codes, your source codes, checking for known vulnerabilities, for instance. It's called shifting left. It's also the quality at the source. It's also used by now by communities that practice DevSecOps. The secure coding practices integrated in this DevOps way of working. Again, if you follow this course, we provide you the foundation, and then DevSecOps trainings can provide you with insights on how to really focus on the security part of DevOps. Also, one of the things that we try to achieve through continuous delivery, continuous deployment, is really about faster deployment, but in the end, it also creates a faster feedback loop. And this is ultimately what we try to achieve with Agile. And to me, the difference between Agile and DevOps is that Agile focuses on a way of working and a process more, and then providing that code into the production environment. DevOps to me is Agile Plus because it really focuses on the operation part after the Agile process. So really, we deployed it into production, and now we're also having to have to support this software. You can go into discussions with technical agilists or other people. For us, this really is the boundary for production. Anything up to production is Agile, and then DevOps to us is also including the operations or the production environment. This is something that we discuss. We discuss all these topics, and well, if you're lucky enough to get these trainings by Marcel or me, you really get this consultancy type operational view on how to really implement this in organizations, which really gives an edge to this training and really shows you practical examples on how to implement all these things into your organization. Okay, next slide, please.
Yeah, and that's my slide. So this slide shows you the qualification scheme of DASA. At the bottom, that is the course that we are talking about in this webinar, the DevOps Fundamentals. That's a course at foundational level. As mentioned in the beginning, it is covering all the key elements, 12 areas at Bloom's taxonomy level 1 and 2. So it covers the knowledge, it brings you to the required level of knowledge and comprehension of all important areas. That is what DevOps is about. After that course, you can decide to make next steps in your DevOps career. Then you can choose for specific professional level courses or even leadership courses. The qualification scheme doesn't require that you first need to complete all the professional courses before you can start taking a leadership course. So you can make a step from fundamentals to one of the leadership courses immediately. But depending on your ambitions and the direction that the organization is going, you can choose for example, the professional level courses Enable and Scale. That course is specifically focused on the 4 skill areas of the spiderweb diagram. So courage, leadership, team building, continuous improvement. A very practical course with a lot of practical assignments and discussions. The other professional level courses, Specify and Verify, is going into the lower left-hand corner of the spiderweb diagram, going into covering the early stages of making specific what the customer wants and making sure that it is going to be delivered according to the specification and the expectations of the customer. And in between, we have Create and Deliver. Enable and Scale and Specify and Verify are normal classroom courses or virtual courses, although Enable and Scale is not recommended to deliver that virtually because of the type and the amount of exercises and the interaction which is required. But Create and Deliver is going to be an individual online course, which is going to be made available soon. That course is not available yet. At leadership level, we have 3 different courses. We have the product owner, the leader, and the coach. The product owner is of course going to cover the details about the product owner role, not only in an agile team, but as Sam already mentioned, in DevOps Agile, it's Agile Plus. The scope of Agile is also going to be expanded to the operations area. And that's also what is making this course, the product owner, interesting. What are the responsibilities and the duties of a product owner in a DevOps environment? And so not only in an Agile team, so much broader than an Agile product owner course only. On the right-hand side, we have the coach, which is focused on, the name is self-explaining, coaching DevOps teams to improve the performance, the efficiency, and the effectiveness of a DevOps team. But when you look at organizational level, how to ensure that the chance of success of transforming to a DevOps organization is going to be increased, so higher than the 75 failure rate identified by Gartner and Forrester, to increase the chance that your transformation initiative is going to lead to the required objective and the required situation. That's where the DevOps Leader course can help you as an organization to improve that chance of bringing it towards a success. That course is focused on management styles, leadership styles, cultural aspects, transformational aspects at organizational level. If you want to know more about any of these other courses, then let us know, and we are more than happy to provide you all necessary information. Anything to add from your end, Sam or Sean, about this?
From my end is that I can provide the product owner and coach training. I have helped build the coach training. I was one of the first teams in Europe that participated in that course. I've edited the questions for the coach exam, so if you want to make a chance on succeeding, then yeah, I'm probably one of the better guys to contact. But like Marcel said, the leader is really the course for the visionaries, the strategists, the C-level manager types, and the coach is really the enabler of that vision. So these courses really try to integrate into each other. The leader has the vision and the ideas, and then the coach is there to implement these ideas. As a sort of transformational consultant, team coach, and also please to specify this is not a CD technical enabler guy. This is really a cultural coach, a transformational coach, because we do not provide the technical aspect as of yet. That's what I wanted to add. Sean, you?
Yeah, not much to add, but if you look at the trainings CompuTrain provides, there are at least at this moment the DASA DevOps Fundamentals course and the DASA DevOps Professional Enable and Scale. And we are a Dutch training organization, so if you are interested in one of these 2 courses, please contact me. And also in the future, we are going to expand towards the DASA DevOps coach, and we will work with Sam as one of the main trainers for providing that training. So that's small addition for me.
Thank you. Next slide then, please. So this slide is giving you an overview of the different courses that we just talked about in the horizontal bar at the top of the slide, and some target audiences for the specific courses. I'm not going to explain every target type of human being that is a candidate to follow every specific course. No, that is too detailed. But as you can see, DASA DevOps courses are for not only DevOps engineers, although the DevOps engineers are listed as target audience, but also business executives, product owners, incident and change managers, operations managers, network administrators. So a very broad type of audience that are going to recognize value from the different courses when they are going to when the organization is going to move towards a high-performing IT organization, or you are already in such an environment, then those different courses, depending on where your ambitions are lying or what kind of improvements you are looking for. I'm sure that at least one of these courses, one additional on top of the fundamentals, will deliver value for you.
And maybe a small addition, if you look at DASA DevOps Fundamentals, there's a lot of technical jargon and way of working, way of thinking a modern IT organization is run at the moment. And if you're a business professional or a young professional who's new and doesn't work in IT, but has a relationship with IT or wants to know more about how a modern IT organization is being run, then this is also a really good fundamentals course. It's in the name, to just get an introduction. How do modern companies run their IT organization? And what are all these terms? What is Scrum? What is Lean? What is DevOps? What is continuous integration, continuous delivery? So I also see it as a broader training, which Marcel stated. It's a broad area of roles which are being addressed within this course. But also, if you have no clue what are those guys or those women talking about from IT, or I hear all these terms about continuous integration, yeah, then the DevOps Fundamentals course is a really good introduction course as well. So please feel welcome, even if you're not from the technical side, as Marcel stated before.
Yeah, and make use of the chance of, if your organization is considering organizing a DevOps Fundamentals course, then please take people into consideration from both the operations side, but also the development side. I remember that one of my first DevOps courses, both managers from development as well as operations were invited to send staff members to the training course, but only people from operations showed up because the people from development thought it was not meant for them. Okay. That's a missed chance, because DevOps is all about breaking down the walls between departments, increase the level of collaboration and communication and trust among people in an organization. So it's important to make use of this opportunity as a first step in your organization to start knowing more about each other and start communicating with each other instead of communicating about each other. Thank you. Next slide, please, which is, I think, one of the last slides.
It's question time. Do we have any questions? And thank you, everybody, for providing us with some great information. Do we have any questions from the audience? Otherwise, I've already got some questions which have been asked prior to this webinar. No questions? Okay, well, I'm going to fire away then with some questions that we had because before the webinar. So just should I choose between frameworks like DevOps or ITIL or SAFe? Any of you? Sean, can you answer that? Sam?
Oh, Sam, no, I think you should not choose. It's complementary. So within the DevOps way of thinking, you have SAFe DevOps as well, and ITIL as well, the service management practice. And I think it just is a good way of looking, how do you do service management? How is it in the SAFe framework? How is it in the LESS framework, which is more for scaling agile in an organization? And how does DevOps fit within those areas? Maybe Sam also wants to add something to that.
No,
or Marcel, or both.
Marcel?
Yeah, you know, it's many organizations, they make that mistake. They made the decision to implement ITIL or implement Agile, or we are going to work according Scrum or DevOps. Then they position such a framework as the ultimate objective to achieve. That is the incorrect application of DevOps and ITIL or Scrum or Agile. they should strive another higher level of objectives. For example, increase the market share, or getting into the market with in a shorter period of time with a higher quality. These kind of objectives, for which you can utilize the different frameworks that are out there. So I always explain that each framework can be perceived as a specific set of tools, specific toolboxes. And depending on what kind of aspect you want to improve, you can have a look into the ITIL toolbox, or the Agile toolbox, or the DevOps toolbox, or the Scrum toolbox. Hopefully you do the same in your private environment, right? Your goal should not be to use all the tools that you have available in your toolbox. So depending on the job you need to accomplish, to use a hammer or a saw or a drill or a screwdriver. Your goal should not be use all the tools from the toolbox. And that's unfortunately too often still the case in organizations.
Okay.
So it's not a matter of I have to choose which one should we choose, or ITIL or DevOps or Agile. No. Think about what is it that we want to accomplish, what is it that we want to realize, and what are the different frameworks providing us as guidance, as tips, hints, and tricks. That's what they are doing.
For some companies, it just not makes any sense to apply a Spotify model, for instance. If you're working in a highly regulated environment, then trying to do a Spotify model, a few companies tried it, but it's not really recommended, because your basis is not definitely creating software. It's one of the things you do in a highly regulated environment. One of the good things, for instance, from LAS and SAFe and all the other scaling things, is that you communicate with your POs that are working close by, and with the Scrum Masters that are working close by. You do a Scrum of Scrums, or a PO sync. For some situations or some organizations, this really works pretty well. Also, SAFe, implementing SAFe is really, to me, really a good in-between step from moving from a organization that has really project-minded people and operation-minded people. Then you can implement SAFe and really try to adjust and really test out Agile and Agile ways of working, and then moving towards other types of scaling frameworks, or maybe going hardcore Agile. Keep in mind that we're at the point already that all these new ways of working are already getting outdated a little bit. We're already developing new methods of working together, maybe going away from doing these sprints, 2-week sprints, because our teams are really that mature already that we no longer need a plotted time or 2 weeks. Maybe we can do it in 1 week. And maybe we do it variably. We do a smaller task in 1 week and bigger task in 3 weeks. So keep in mind that putting all your energy in learning all these frameworks and stuff is really maybe not the correct way to spend your energy, but really go back to the foundations and really talk to people in the organization. Okay, what do we require? First step is always level the playing field. Have people have the same ideas about Agile. Have people have the same ideas about DevOps, etc., etc. That's what I wanted to add.
Okay, great. And then another question, are you going to talk about Docker and Kubernetes as DevOps tools?
Well, not in our training, not yet, at least. Sean can tell more about that.
We mentioned them, but we are not going to explain them.
If you look at the technical sides, there are a lot of training courses on these subjects, but it's also really good to know why and how you're going to use those technologies. And yeah, there are different training types for that goal, but we do mention it. You get a little bit of a idea which technologies are used, but if you really want to have hands-on technology knowledge, then you can also get trained in that area, but not within DASA.
Okay. And one for Marcel, explaining the DevOps sort of fundamentals. The principle, why do we have them? Why does DASA have the, DASA fundamentals? Can you explain more about that?
Why do we have the fundamentals training course? Is that the question, or is?
Oh no. So why do we have the? Sorry. Then why do we have not the fundamentals? Why do we have the DevOps principles?
Ah, the principles. Okay. Okay. Yeah, we have 6 principles mentioned already in this presentation. You know, and many other frameworks are also having principles, like ITIL is having the guiding principles, Prince2 is having principles, Agile is having principles. So also DASA DevOps is having principles. And those principles are the norms and the values that you need to take into account to be able to be successful. If you don't take one principle into account, then the risk that you're going to fail is going to be higher. And depending on the situation, one principle is more important compared to other principles. And there is also not a ranking of principles, although the customer-centric action, the value that the customer is looking for, should always be on top. So you should always do something that delivers at the end of the day value for the business, value for the customer. You can look at that one as one of the most important ones, but for the rest, depending on the situation, you can utilize most of the time multiple principles in parallel. So without the norms and the values that you need to take into account. Maybe you want to add something, Sam, about that?
Yeah, it's things like continue. I think it's called continual improvement in ITIL, and it's continuous improvement at in DevOps, right? You're the expert there. Continual improvement, right? Yeah. So that's a best practices in a couple of frameworks, a couple of best practices or principles in other frameworks as well. That shows me that probably this is a best practice because many people, many organizations have determined that this is the best practice. And the definition of a best practice is we tried something and we have sort of the best solution, and this is the best practice. So to me, that's quite logical. If you look at the, I think it's 9 or 7 principles that ITIL has, you can also almost map those to the 6 that we provide at DASA. And mainly, again, because these are well-known best practices. Automate everything you can is one that you can map directly to ITIL. Customer-centric action can also be mapped directly to ITIL. Yeah, these are just best practices, so it's very good to follow these. And like Marcel said, if you follow these 6, these are guidelines to help you make your organization a successful digital organization participant.
Okay, great. A couple more questions. For a company that wants to start DevOps way of working, would it be better to train some leaders first and then team members on fundamentals? And what is the better way to start?
Yeah, I think when
okay, Marcel.
Yeah, when an organization already decided to change the way of working in a more DevOps way of working, then we have the leaders and the managers that should drive the change, the cultural change in an organization. For that reason, they should know what DevOps is about. Whether they should take the complete fundamentals course or maybe an awareness session, that's up to the organization. But ideally speaking, they should also take the fundamentals course to get a complete overview what DevOps is about. Because they should support, they should understand what the impact is on the current organization of moving towards a high-performing organization. So I strongly recommend to send the leaders, maybe in combination, the leaders and the managers in combination with the normal people that are doing the real work, make a mix of those classes so they can discuss both challenges that the leaders and the managers, but also the operational people are dealing with when they move to such a high-performing organization.
Okay, so great. And then a couple more. Just so obviously, you know, having discussed it for leaders regarding the courses, you know, should they take a professional the fundamental one or the professional ones before they do the leader or coach course?
Yeah, we suggest everybody goes through the same trainer with the same fundamentals course. So we lay down that foundation, like Marcel said. I also see some question about project management. So which is more product management focused? By Gabriela.
Yes.
Well, DevOps is more product focused. There's a book by McKersten that's called From Project to Product. That's really a good book to read if you're interested in this topic. But DevOps is very customer centric, activity focused, not team focused, or sorry, not silo focused, but team focused. So you move from a group of people that are working together to a team that are providing a complete end-to-end solution, or at least as much as possible. Yeah. So yeah, DevOps is more product focused than project management, and we're not saying project management is bad. Again, it's a way of working that can help for certain types of organizations or certain parts of organizations. But for us, we're talking about DevOps, and here we're talking about these teams that utilize cloud and are customer facing and are really supposed to deliver value often, reliably, and fast. So yeah, again, DevOps teams are then more product focused.
Yeah, product and service oriented teams.
Yep.
And a question that you can ask yourself, for example, isn't it weird that, yeah, when you look at, let's say, the commercial organizations, they all exist because they deliver valuable products and services to the market, right? But when you look at the way they are organized, they are not organized around the products and services, the reason that they exist. That's weird, right? So it means that the way they work is really inefficient. They are organized around type of activities or organized around branches or geographies. A real inefficient way of working. A DevOps organization is organized around the products and services that an organization sells, where they earn money with and generate profit. So it means that when you have those autonomous, dedicated DevOps teams, they are fully focused on the creating, developing, designing, developing, testing, deploying, running it, managing it, improving it, solving it throughout the whole life cycle of the product and service that team is responsible for. So you have very short lines, very good communication, and all team members, they really feel committed to the quality of the products and services the team is responsible for. Well, when you work in different silos in different departments, then I did my task, and then it's up to my colleague that needs to do the next task, right? So I throw it over the fence to my neighbor, right? And it's not my fault, not my fault. So real inefficient way, collaboration and communication.
Okay, so Gabriella, I hope that answered your question. And I think, you know, that's pretty much all the questions we have for today. So thank you, all of you, Sean, Sam, and Marcel, for your time today. And thank you, everybody, for joining our webinar today. And if you want to find out further information about this course, you can send an email to learning@devopsagileskills.org for further information to sign up to the course, Fundamentals. So thank you, everybody, for being here, and look forward to hearing from you more and future courses with DASA. So wishing everybody a good rest of the afternoon, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you for your time.
Very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.